This is the Arizona chip plant, built by TSMC, the absolute undisputed king of semiconductors. They supply a staggering 95% of cutting-edge chips currently in circulation, building the brains for Nvidia and Apple. When the US government promised them billions through the CHIPS Act to build a flagship factory in the Arizona desert, everyone hailed it as America's manufacturing comeback. But 4 years later, TSMC has yet to start selling a single advanced chip from this site. Instead, they've racked up staggering losses, including nearly $441 million in 2024 alone. They've dealt with constant delays, a fatal explosion on site, massive cultural conflict, and logistical hurdles so ridiculous they are shipping acid across the Pacific just to save money. This project was supposed to secure America's tech future. Instead, it became a $40 billion nightmare. The question is, how did the best chip manufacturer on the planet fail so spectacularly when trying to copy-paste their own success? Stay with me, because the reasons are deeper, weirder, and more political than you can imagine. To understand why this plant is struggling, we need to go back to why it was built in the first place. It wasn't because the Arizona desert is the perfect commercial location. Of course not. The US government, post-COVID crisis, realized relying almost entirely on one small island, Taiwan, for its critical chips was a massive risk. Taiwan faced geopolitical threats, China invasion or blockade thing, environmental risks, earthquakes and drought, as chip making requires vast amounts of water. So the Biden administration started courting TSMC with investment incentives backed by the massive $52.7 billion CHIPS Act. TSMC's move to Arizona was ultimately driven by geopolitical pressure, not market viability. This is an obvious one. But the moment they ignored market logic, the money started hemorrhaging. In 2024, the Arizona facility booked its largest loss since establishment, $441 million loss. Contrast that with their Nanjing factory in China, which earned $860 million the same year. Why such a massive financial disparity? High costs and a fragmented supply chain in the US. Morris Chang, the founder of TSMC, warned early on that chip costs in Arizona would be about 50% above the flagship lines in Taiwan. Some experts now believe the actual cost difference might be closer to 100% more, double the cost. So the foundation of this venture was shaky, huge political necessity combined with the huge projected losses. When TSMC builds a new factory, they follow an industry mantra: copy exact. Chip manufacturing is the most complicated process in the world, involved up to 4,000 precise steps. Features are measured in nanometers. If even a single variable changes, say the brand of a valve or the length of a pipe, it can throw the whole delicate process off key and ruin astronomical numbers of wafers. TSMC tried to clone its advanced facilities in Taiwan down to the minute detail, but they ran into desert realities. So the problem number one, the supply chain desert. In Taiwan, TSMC has a dense ecosystem of suppliers nearby, providing chemicals, gases, and spare parts on a just-in-time schedule. In Arizona, nothing. TSMC quickly found that American suppliers couldn't meet the ultra-pure chemical standards, and if they could, the cost was exorbitant, up to 5 times higher than in Taiwan. Here's the absurdity. For critical materials like ultra-pure sulfuric acid, TSMC chose to ship huge barge tanks of the acid 5,500 miles from Taiwan to the LA port and then truck it 400 miles inland to Arizona because it was still cheaper than buying local. TSMC CEO recounted how even Intel, a veteran US chip maker next door, jumped in to buy from these overseas shipments. And problem number two, water and environment. Chip fabrication demands tremendous volumes of ultra-pure water, UPW. Why build a water-intensive plant in arid region facing chronic drought? TSMC is building a sophisticated reclamation plant to reach near 100% net zero water use. This is costly. Furthermore, the local Phoenix water has a different mineral profile than Taiwan's, requiring complex tweaks to the purification process. And let's not forget the air. Arizona is dry, which is good, but it also experiences seasonal haboobs or massive dust storms. While fabs are sealed clean rooms, ISO Class 1 conditions, meaning virtually no particles allowed, these storms are continuous tests for filtration systems. TSMC realized they weren't just cloning a factory, they had to clone an entire environment and culture, and that included the human element. The struggles weren't just technical, they were human. TSMC's demanding, rigorous work culture collided head-on with a highly unionized US workforce. The workforce shortage debate. TSMC repeatedly blamed production delays on an insufficient amount of skilled workers, noting that US STEM education levels lag behind Asia. They even sought expedited visas for 500 Taiwanese workers to install specialized equipment. But local unions fired back, accusing TSMC of inventing the skill shortage as a ploy to hire cheaper foreign workers. Union leaders said blaming American workers was offensive and inaccurate. Approximately half of the 2,200 employees at the Phoenix site were initially brought in from Taiwan. These Taiwanese workers were offered massive incentives, up to triple the usual salary, plus perks like housing subsidies to uproot their life. But inside the plant, cultural clashes boiled over. American workers struggled with the rigorous hours and the Taiwanese companies demanding workplace culture. Some American employees said they were expected to pitch in on work outside their job descriptions because the facility was behind schedule. A group of former employees even filed a lawsuit accusing TSMC of having an anti-American culture. Construction workers described a deeply disorganized process. Former supervisors cited a lack of coordination, safety issues, and Taiwanese managers who didn't understand US safety code. Workers complained that priority tasks would change daily, blueprints were replaced by strange engineering drawings, and they were constantly tearing down and rebuilding components, costing 5 or 6 times the original quote. One former worker concluded that the managers were hiring American professionals for advice, but they would not listen to us at all. The end result of this labor issue, production was delayed, first from 2024 to 2025 for the first fab, and the second fab was pushed back further, possibly 2027 or 2028. While the technical and labor struggles continue, TSMC is attempting to adapt. Recognizing massive supply chain gap, key suppliers, about 14 companies have committed to establishing facilities in Arizona. Since TSMC announced the project, 39 semiconductor-related companies have relocated or expanded in the region, investing over $37 billion. This is the clustering effect in motion, creating a nascent silicon desert. TSMC management knows they cannot indefinitely rely on importing workers from 7,200 miles away. They have partnered with local unions to recruit and train skilled workers. They're also collaborating with institutions like Arizona State University and local community colleges to ramp up training programs, including building clean rooms to acclimate students to the rigorous environment. The thousands of Taiwanese workers and their families have transformed the Phoenix suburbs into a tiny Taipei. New businesses have sprung up catering to the homesick population, Taiwanese restaurants, boba tea shops, and even home-based catering selling items like spicy beef soup and pork noodles. Churches started offering English classes. This new community is taking root, driven by the financial incentives and the promise of a new life. However, the competition is fierce. While TSMC struggles in the United States, its diversification efforts in Japan are going to plan. One plant already ahead of schedule, and Japan offering lower costs. Founder Morris Chang remains fundamentally skeptical, having previously warned that US efforts to rebuild chip manufacturing domestically were doomed to fail. The first Arizona Fab, 4nm technology, is now expected to begin production in the first half of 2025. Let's see if that happens. It will eventually produce chip, but it will be a high-cost operation born out of geopolitical necessity, not streamlined efficiency. TSMC's Arizona nightmare shows the brutal truth. You can't undo decades of hyper-specialization and global clustering with a single act of government funding. Cloning the world's most advanced factory is more than just shipping over some equipment. It means replicating a 30-year-old ecosystem, a specific culture, and a complex network that simply does not exist yet in America. So, what do you think? Is the US government right to force this expensive change for the sake of national security, or is Morris Chang right that these efforts are ultimately doomed to fail? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to watch more videos like this, and share it with others. Till next time, bye!